Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it is March 19th, 2016. This is a alcohol tester. It says a professional breathalyzer. And I did put take three AAA batteries, and I did put them in here. It comes with 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 altogether mouthpieces. I don't drink. I have never drank. I don't drink alcoholic beverages at all. Both my parents were alcoholics, and children of alcoholics a lot of times drink, but some of them don't. And I'm one who never did. But I worked 30 years, well, even when I was a welder. I worked for 10 years, and one of the places I worked, we got paid every 2 weeks, and you worked evening shift, you could go get your paycheck early. And on those days, when I came into work, instead of there being 50 guys there would probably be 10 of us. All the rest had got their money and got drunk and were out partying. And so they'd take the 10 of us in the plant and move us together for that day so we could get some work done. I had other jobs, post office, business of my own, various things. Then I spent 30 years working hospital security and dealt with drunks just about every night, especially Friday and Saturday nights. Also, I was a police officer for a small town for 10 years. And had to deal with some in that case. Not a lot. But for the police department, had to learn to use the breathalyzer. You had to be certified in that. So when you took somebody in, you could do the test. If we'd had a large department, we could have had somebody, but if you made a stop and had to bring somebody in for a breathalyzer, then you had to be certified in order to do it. This comes with a pretty neat little book. Now, when I was a police officer, I'm not sure for the 30 years, we never, for the police department, we sure never had any portable units that we could check out on when we made a stop. You had to do, the field check. And we didn't have one of these. I see now, just fairly recently, that I noticed that in pharmacies or whatever, you can purchase these. And other drug test kits. Might have come in handy. I had 4 kids. Might have come in handy when now a parent can kind of threaten a kid, we're going to do, of course, I think the marijuana, I'm not sure, but the drug test, I think, probably had to be sent off to someplace, but you could do it yourself and then, send it off to be tested. Of course, one of these, you'd know right away if your kids had been drinking. Like I said, I'm not going to use this because I haven't consumed any alcohol, and, but this seems pretty professional to me. The meter has to certify itself, check itself. It has to wait a certain amount of time. Well, I'm not sure how I do with this cap on here. And then it tells you when the person should blow. And just see, now you would want your person to blow. And it says right on there. Now I'm not sure if it's going to let me shut it off without the person blowing. Let's see, I'm sure it probably will. But, yeah, it did. But this instruction book appears to be pretty, pretty good. Tells you about the batteries and how to do it, what the display shows. Well, blow tube, screen, vent hole, buzzer hole, switch. So, this is definitely something, I'm not sure. I can see parents using it. I don't, like, would a bar want to, I don't know. My father-in-law used to own a bar forever. I'm sure he never tested any of it. Well, he probably knew, but I think, it's testing it, or not testing it, but letting your kids know that, Dad and Mom can check. If you were supposed to be home at 11 o'clock and you come home at 2 a.m. and, or whatever, that, but when you get into, I wouldn't think that an employer, because of lawsuits or liability, if you're going to, I think it would be better to have a company come in, and if you have an employee who has an accident, or if you suspect an employee, I think you should probably I don't know, that's out of my expertise. I would think you'd have to have a procedure. You'd have to have a procedure that had been approved, I guess, by Human Resources Department and maybe by your attorneys or whatever. What happened, I was working, like I said, hospital security, and came into work one night, and the ER nurse says, "Jim, look at that." And on the bulletin board there in the ER break room for the nurses and the doctor, there was a statement from the hospital attorney, and it said that because the Missouri legislature passed the following law, and then it had the law, which was very short, and the law stated that something to the effect of, in the state of Missouri, whoops, I see, overloading the mic here a little bit for some reason, stated that Missouri legislature passed a law that a juvenile without parental consent could request and be given by a doctor, a hospital, or clinic, or whatever, without parental consent, could request a pregnancy test, I think an HIV test, and pregnancy, HIV, maybe a drug screen, I can't remember. I think it was a drug screen also. And that they did not need parental consent. So anyway, I read that and I said, well, that's wrong. Of course, the ER doctor and who was in there, and the nurse, well, that's what the hospital, attorney says, and that's, and I said, oh, I understand that. We have to go by what this hospital attorney says, but I said, I can read the law. That's not what the law, of course, intended. Oh, what it said was that since Missouri legislature passed a law saying that a juvenile could consent to having, or could request that the test to be done without parental consent, that meant that they could also legally refuse, that the parents could bring them in and demand that a test be done, and the child could say, no, I don't want the test done, and it would be illegal, against the law, for the hospital, the doctor, whatever, to do the test. So anyway, I said, this is wrong. And they said, well, and I said, I understand. We have to do what the hospital attorney states, but it's wrong. And it's going to be really a problem. And I said, do me a favor, though, and hang on to this thing. Make sure, because they took the things down occasionally. I said, make sure we know where this is, because we're going to have some parents bring a kid in here one night and demand that a test be done. And when you tell them you can't do the test, they are going to go ballistic. And I said, I hope I'm not working, but if I'm working, I'm probably going to have to deal with it. And so 2 or 3 months later, some parents brought a girl about 12 or 13 in at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning and said that she was supposed to be home at 10 o'clock at night or whatever, and she didn't get home till 1 or something, and they wanted a drug screen done on her. And she was saying, no, I'm not going, you can't do one on me, I refuse it, I don't want one, you can't do it, or whatever. And the nurse went ahead and stamped out the lab text thing for doing the screening and woke up the ER doctor, who was sleeping, because he could sleep if there was no patients. And he came out, and then he went right over and saw what the situation was, said, well, we'll have to do, we'll do the screen or whatever. And then I looked at the ER nurse, and she looked at me, the same, and I said, remember that policy? And she said, oh, yeah. I said, do you know where it is? And she said, so she went through, pulled it out, and she went over and showed it to the doctor, and he looked at it. So then he went over and told the parents, sorry, or first he tried to talk, will you let us do the test? And, no, the girl was adamant, just like it was almost like she knew what the law was or what, And so then the doctor told the parents, sorry, we can't do it because, and of course the father was adamant, this is my daughter, she's my, juvenile, I'm her, she has to, I control, and she's my daughter and I can do and what, and I mean, he didn't get belligerent, I didn't have to get involved. But, so no test was done. So, but this isn't going to be you. You're not going to get involved in anything like that. I don't think so. Sensitive and high accuracy. The breath alcohol tester is used to measure concentrations of alcohol in the human body. With a sensitive semi-conductor sensor, it can quickly give a result to judge whether or not you can drive or not. Provide a high accuracy results, and so I mean, this is a neat, something parents should have around the house for sure. And like I said, both my parents were alcoholics. Wouldn't have done me any good because, I mean, it wouldn't have done me any good to test them because they both would have. Of course, they both insisted they were not ever. They would never, even though I had to go out and either my dad would pass out in the driveway or whatever, I'd have to go wait till the neighbors weren't, it was dark and I'd drag him in or something. But he always insisted that he was never intoxicated. But it wouldn't have done any good to had him blow in this and show it to him the next day. He still would have said he wasn't intoxicated. But I think you need to think about, if you're using this for your kids at home or something, or what other ways could you use this? I mean, maybe at a party, you could use this at a party, but you do need to think about liability or whatever. I mean, this would be a neat party thing. Don't get, you have people over, or somebody has them over, and you drink and you test different people, and you see what the reading is on them. But the only problem is, be very careful if you decide to have a party and this is going to be what you're going to do, one of the things you're going to do. If somebody blows and they're over the legal limit, you let them leave, and get in their car and drive. You let them get behind the wheel of the car. If they get arrested for DWI, I think they could come back and sue you. But for sure, you could be, if you see somebody blows over the legal limit and they go out and they have an accident and injure somebody else or kill somebody else, I am sure that there could be, I'm not sure if there could be criminal, I'm not sure if the state can come back on you, but there could be a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit for sure. And if, oh yeah, he blew 0.2 or 0.02, I'm not sure how they measured on this, if you 2 times the legal limit for driving. And yeah, we did know that, and we did know he was driving, and he did go out and he drove away, and then he killed somebody. You could be, so you might think, no, I don't want to do this for a game. Or maybe you have some type of situation where, maybe you're an employer and you're having a Christmas party or something or other, and you say, okay, here's the rules. We have an open bar here, but everybody before you leave is going to have to blow this. And if you're intoxicated, you're not going to be allowed to drive. We won't let you, and if you, insist on getting in the car, we will, number 1, terminate you. You will be fired from this company. And number 2, we'll be calling the police and informing there's an intoxicated driver and give them your license number. So do think about that. But I definitely recommend it. This is something maybe this is, you have a baby, the hospital gives you one of those bags with samples of formula and diapers and gift cards for maybe something or other. Maybe they ought to give you one of these. Or maybe they could just say, when your kid is 10 or 12, come by and pick one up and we'll give it to you or something. Okay, that's it. I do recommend this. Recommended for all parents, unfortunately.